Let's take a look at our second methodology. We've already looked at the waterfall methodology, and we established that it was the very first way of planning, the first formal way of planning something that was written down into a coherent model. And this was back in the 60s. And this model was really designed for building things like bridges, where you had real materials like cement, water, brickwork, metal, and lots of people. But this methodology worked well because clearly before you started to bring all the cement, brickwork and so on to actually build the bridge, you had to pretty much know what you were going to do. Software development is totally different, and that model doesn't really work with software development, not well enough anyway. So this is where a new system came into play, and it's called the Rapid Application Development Model. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's completely different to the waterfall method that we've just discussed. And let's jump in and see how it compares to the waterfall method. And don't forget, for M1, you're looking to compare and contrast the two methods, talking about advantages, disadvantages, but also thinking about what sort of project one method would suit as opposed to another method. So the main focus with the RAD, the RAD system, is that there's less time spent up front looking at user requirements. Instead, the focus is on producing prototypes quickly. When we say prototypes, we're talking about a model of what's going to happen. Usually a working model, but not necessarily. This methodology works particularly well when graphics are involved. When there's a heavy focus on graphical design and on user interfaces, the Rapid Application Development Model comes into its own there. The focus is on making these prototypes really quickly. So less time spent on user requirements, on interviews, on research in advance, and less time spent on thinking about the specification, and also less time spent on design. Because don't forget, in the waterfall methodology, you first of all go and do all of your research, and then you design your product, and then you move on to actually making it. Well, this one jumps into making it very early on. The prototypes, not a huge amount of planning involved in the prototypes. You just start making them based upon the specification that you think you're going to make, but you work iteratively. Another key word that you include here is the idea that you do version 1 into version 2 into version 3. That's the notion of working iteratively. The testing of the prototypes happens during the development and at the end of each production cycle. And the testing, and this is really key, the testing involves the end user. The end user is very much involved all the way through this process. So it's as though you make a prototype, you show it to the end user. Based on that feedback, you do the next iteration. You keep making prototype after prototype after prototype until you get to the final version that you want. The advantages is that prototypes can be assessed and they can be evaluated as they are made. So you're getting immediate feedback to your work on the prototypes. It's also a much faster development method because you don't have those two initial phases that you have with waterfall. You're jumping straight in and making it. You are going to make multiple versions of it, but you are jumping in and making it straight away, which saves time. However, there are some problems with this methodology. First of all, you have to have the end user involved all the way through. For some projects, the end user might not want to work that way, so it would be a poor choice. Equally, where the project is really complex, you really can't use this because you would get lost really quickly. You can't keep making iterations of prototypes where what you're making is in nature very complex. So, don't forget, for M1, you're comparing and contrasting and you're talking about advantages, disadvantages, and which project methodology would work for different types of projects. And you've got a bit of a hint here, the size of projects, the complexity of projects, how much you will know about the project up front. These are the sorts of key areas that you need to be thinking about when you're comparing and contrasting for M1.